What if everything you've been told about self-confidence is completely wrong? For years, maybe your entire life, you've been told to think positively, to believe in yourself, to fake it until you make it. And yet, the doubt is still there, whispering, sabotaging, paralyzing you at the exact moment you need to act. Today, you'll discover 7 brutal Stoic laws, ancient weapons forged by the greatest minds in history that will systematically destroy self-doubt at its root and rebuild you into someone psychologically unbreakable. We're not talking about motivation. We're not talking about affirmations. We're talking about a total rewiring of how your mind operates under pressure. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man sat alone in his private journal, not to be published, not to be praised, and wrote words so brutally honest about the human mind that they still cut through the noise of the modern world like a blade. His name was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of the most powerful military force in human history, a man who controlled armies, governed nations, and faced constant war, betrayal, and loss. And yet, this same man battled self-doubt. In Book 5 of his Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Read that again slowly. Not power over outcomes, not power over other people, not power over circumstances, power over your mind. Marcus understood something that most people spend their entire lives running from, that the battlefield isn't out there. It has always been in here. Inside the skull, inside the chest, inside the silent conversations you have with yourself at 2 a.m. when the world is quiet and the doubt is loud. We live in an age of unprecedented external noise, social media comparison, financial pressure, relationship uncertainty, a relentless culture that rewards performance and punishes vulnerability. Self-doubt has become an epidemic, quietly destroying potential, silencing voices, and keeping extraordinary people trapped in ordinary lives. The Stoics had no social media, but they understood human psychology with a depth that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to confirm. Their principles aren't philosophy, they are operating systems for the human mind. In this video, we'll explore 7 Stoic laws that will dismantle self-doubt at the structural level, rebuild your inner architecture, and forge the kind of mental strength that doesn't crack under pressure. These aren't theories, these are tools, and after today, you will know how to use every single one of them. Let's begin. Law 1. The law of the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This profound truth has guided warriors, leaders, and philosophers for centuries. It speaks not of escape, but of fortification. The inner citadel is the Stoic concept of a fortress within yourself that no external force can breach. It is the part of you that exists beyond circumstance, beyond failure, beyond what others say about you. Most people believe that confidence comes from outside, from success, from validation, from winning. The Stoics called this a catastrophic misunderstanding. Real confidence is not built on external results. It is built on your relationship with your own mind, and that relationship is entirely under your control. Modern psychology calls this concept internal locus of control, the belief that your thoughts, not your circumstances, determine your experience of life. Studies from Rorter's foundational research consistently show that individuals with strong internal locus of control exhibit lower anxiety, greater resilience, and significantly higher achievement. Here's the problem this law solves. You've been outsourcing your self-worth. Every time someone criticizes you, the fortress shakes. Every time you fail, the walls crack. Every time the world doesn't respond the way you expected, the doubt floods in. You've been building your confidence on sand, on the shifting, unpredictable behavior of the outside world. And the Stoics would look at you with calm eyes and say, "You were never supposed to build it there." Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you expose your mind to the world's noise, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Ask yourself one question. What do I know to be true about who I am, regardless of what today brings? Write down 3 answers. This is not affirmation. This is inventory. You are cataloging what lives inside your citadel. At work, when criticism arrives, and it will, practice the pause. Before reacting, before shrinking, ask, does this opinion threaten what I know to be true about myself? Most times, the honest answer is no. You feel threatened only because you haven't yet mapped your own inner territory. Build the citadel, wall by wall, day by day, and self-doubt will find no door to enter. Most people let the world write the story of who they are. But you are different. You know that the author lives within. And no review, no rejection, no failure can rewrite what you've chosen to inscribe on your own walls. But building the fortress is only the beginning. Because there's a force even more insidious than external criticism, and it lives inside you. Let's move to lesson 2. Law 2, the law of amor fati. Love what is. Epictetus wrote in Enchiridion, chapter 8. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. This wasn't passive surrender. This was the most aggressive act of mental freedom ever described. Amor fati, love of fate, not tolerance of fate, not grudging acceptance of fate. Love. The Stoics believed that everything that happens to you, every failure, every humiliation, every moment of doubt is not an obstacle to your greatness. It is the material from which your greatness is forged. The steel doesn't complain about the fire. The steel becomes what it is because of the fire. Self-doubt feeds on resistance. Every time you say, "This shouldn't be happening to me," every time you fight reality instead of working within it, you give doubt more fuel. The mind at war with its own circumstances is a mind too exhausted to build anything. Neuroscience supports this. Research on cognitive reappraisal, the practice of consciously reframing how we interpret events, shows it significantly reduces emotional distress and increases long-term psychological resilience. The Stoics were practicing cognitive reappraisal 2,000 years before the lab coats had a name for it. You've experienced failure, haven't you? And in the aftermath, the doubt arrived like a flood. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I was wrong about myself. Maybe I should stop. That's not wisdom speaking. That's a mind that hasn't yet learned to read its own story correctly. The failure wasn't the ending. It was the lesson. It was the weight that built the muscle. This week, identify one thing in your life you've been resisting, one situation you've labeled as wrong or unfair or proof that I can't. Write down 3 ways this experience could be making you stronger, sharper, or more capable. This isn't toxic positivity. This is strategic reframing. This is choosing the interpretation that serves your growth over the one that feeds your doubt. When self-doubt says, "This proves I'm not enough," amor fati answers, "This proves exactly what I still have to forge." Love the fire. It is the only thing that makes you steel. But amor fati alone isn't enough, because even when you love your circumstances, you can still be imprisoned by what you imagine the future holds. The next law will break those chains entirely. Let's move to lesson 3. Lesson 3, the law of the present moment. The only battlefield, Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, Book 8, 7, confine yourself to the present. 4 words, yet they carry more psychological weight than entire libraries of self-help literature. This is not about mindfulness as a wellness trend. This is a warrior's strategy for eliminating the primary weapon self-doubt uses against you. Self-doubt does not live in the present moment. Read that again. Doubt is always a time traveler. It drags you backward, replaying past failures, past humiliations, past moments when you fell short. Or it launches you forward, projecting catastrophes that haven't happened, futures that may never arrive. Doubt needs distance from reality to survive. Bring your mind into the present moment, and you starve it. This is why elite athletes, military special forces, and high-performance executives all train presence. Because in the moment of actual execution, the pitch, the mission, the negotiation, doubt cannot operate in real time. It only operates in the imagination. And the imagination is not the present. You know this suffering, lying awake at night, not solving problems, just rehearsing them, replaying the conversation that went wrong, pre-living the conversation that might go wrong. Meanwhile, the actual present moment, the one where you have power, where you can act, where you can decide, is passing by unused. Practice what the Stoics called proscio, attention to the present. When doubt strikes, ask one grounding question: what single action can I take in the next 5 minutes? Not tomorrow, not eventually, now. The mind fixated on immediate, specific action cannot simultaneously spiral into abstract self-doubt. They cannot coexist. At work, when you feel overwhelmed, don't ask, "Can I succeed at this project?" Ask, "What is the single next sentence I need to write?" The battlefield is always smaller than doubt makes it appear, always. Confine yourself to the present. This is where your power lives. This is where doubt goes to die. If the present is where we fight, then we need to understand precisely what we're fighting for, because most people are battling doubt without knowing what they actually stand for. The most powerful lesson is coming up. But first, let's arm you with lesson 4. Law 4. The law of voluntary hardship. Forge yourself deliberately. Seneca wrote, in Letters to Lucilius, letter 18, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, was deliberately practicing poverty, not because he had to, because he chose to. The law of voluntary hardship is perhaps the most counterintuitive Stoic principle and the most devastatingly effective against self-doubt. Here is the core insight: you do not fear the hardship you have already survived. Self-doubt is, at its biological root, the anticipation of pain you haven't yet proven you can handle. The Stoics eliminated this by voluntarily walking into controlled discomfort before life forced them to. When you deliberately choose cold showers, difficult conversations, fasting, physical challenge, or any form of discomfort, you are accumulating proof that discomfort does not destroy you. And every piece of evidence you accumulate against the narrative of your own fragility makes self-doubt weaker. You've been protecting yourself from discomfort. You've been choosing the easier path, the safer option, the softer conversation. Not because it serves you, but because the anticipation of difficulty felt worse than the cost of avoidance. And every avoidance is a confirmation to your nervous system that you couldn't handle it. That confirmation is the seed of self-doubt. Starting this week, choose one form of voluntary discomfort every single day. It doesn't have to be dramatic. 5 minutes of cold water at the end of your shower, one difficult conversation you've been postponing, one workout you do when you don't feel like it, one meal you skip. The specifics matter less than the pattern that you are a person who chooses difficulty rather than fleeing from it. That identity, built day by day, becomes armor that self-doubt cannot penetrate. Most people wait for life to force them into hardship. You are different. You walk toward the fire because you know what fire makes you. You are building armor. But remember what we discussed in Lesson 1. The inner citadel also needs a sentinel, a guardian who decides what enters. Because without the next law, even the most disciplined person can be dismantled by words. Let's move to Lesson 5. Law 5. The law of perception. You see what you choose to see. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, Book 6, 13. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Your estimate, your interpretation, your Stoics. The Stoics understood that perception is not passive reception. It is an active act of creation. Every event arrives neutral. Your mind assigns it meaning. When you fail, the event is neutral. Your mind says, "This means I'm inadequate." And that judgment, not the failure itself, creates self-doubt. When someone criticizes you, the words are neutral. Your mind says, "They're right, I'm not enough." And that assignment of meaning is where the damage occurs. This is radical because it means the primary source of your self-doubt is not the world. It is the stories you are telling yourself about the world, and stories can be rewritten. You've been a passive consumer of your own interpretations. Events happen, and you accept the first story your fearful mind offers, usually the story that confirms your worst fears about yourself. The thought arrives, "I failed this," and within seconds it has mutated into, "I am a failure." That mutation is the mechanism of self-doubt, and you have been letting it operate unchecked. Practice what the Stoics called phantasia cataleptic, the gripping impression, the discipline of interrogating every judgment before accepting it. When a negative self-assessment arrives, hold it up to 3 questions. Is this absolutely true? What evidence contradicts this? What would a reasonable, wise person say about this situation? This is not weakness. This is ruthless cognitive hygiene. This is keeping your perceptual instrument calibrated and clean. A weak mind accepts every dark story the world tells about it. A strong mind interrogates every story and keeps only what is true, useful, and aligned with growth. You have the power to revoke the estimate. At any moment, use it. But here's what most people miss. Perception without commitment is just philosophy. And commitment requires you to confront something most men and women desperately avoid. The next law is the one that separates the students of Stoicism from the practitioners. Let's move to Lesson 6. Law 6. The law of memento mori. Your death will make you fearless. Seneca wrote in Letters to Lucilius, Letter 1, "Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The Romans carried skulls on their mantles. Generals had servants whisper, 'You are mortal,' in their ear during triumphs. This was not morbidity, this was liberation. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. And when you truly internalize the reality of your own mortality, not as an abstract concept, but as a visceral, bone-deep certainty, something extraordinary happens to self-doubt. It shrinks to almost nothing. Because what does self-doubt tell you? That you might fail, that you might be embarrassed, that you might not measure up. And when you place that against the absolute certainty of your death, the question becomes, compared to what? You have a fixed, unknown amount of time. Every day you spend paralyzed by doubt is a day you will never reclaim. The Stoics didn't find this depressing. They found it clarifying. It cut through every trivial fear like sunlight through fog. You've been treating your days as infinite. You've been saving your real effort for someday, when you feel more ready, more confident, more certain. But the doubt keeps pushing someday further away. And time, indifferent, relentless time, keeps shortening the distance between you and your last day. Spend 5 minutes each morning with this single question. If today were my last, would I let doubt make my decisions? Not as a morbid exercise, as a clarifying lens. Ask what truly matters. Ask what you've been postponing out of fear. Then do one of those things today. Not tomorrow. Today. The person who has made peace with their mortality fears almost nothing else. Rejection, failure, embarrassment, these are nothing against the backdrop of oblivion. Memento mori doesn't make life dark. It makes every action feel urgent, sacred, and worth taking fully. Remember that you will die, and suddenly self-doubt loses its power to stop you. We've armed you with 6 brutal laws, but the seventh is the integration, the one that ties every weapon together and makes you not just strong in isolation, but unbreakable under sustained pressure. The most powerful lesson is here. Let's move to lesson 7. Law 7, the law of the ruling faculty. Command your own mind. Epictetus wrote in Enchiridion chapter 1, "Of things, some are in our power, and others are not. In our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing." This is the foundation upon which all Stoic strength is built, the dichotomy of control, and it is the final weapon against self-doubt. The hegemonikon, the ruling faculty, is the Stoic term for the governing part of your mind, the part that decides, not the part that feels, not the part that reacts, not the part that doubts, but the sovereign authority within you that ultimately commands. Epictetus, born a slave, owned nothing in the external world, and yet he was arguably the most psychologically free man in the Roman Empire, because he had mastered his ruling faculty. He understood with absolute clarity what was his and what was not. Self-doubt is fundamentally a crisis of jurisdiction. You are trying to control what is not yours. Other people's opinions, external outcomes, the unpredictable behavior of life, while neglecting to what is entirely yours, your judgments, your effort, your response, your character. Every time you doubt yourself, trace the doubt back to its source. You will almost always find that you are either fearing an outcome you cannot control or believing someone else's assessment over your own reasoned judgment. In both cases, you have abandoned your ruling faculty. You have handed your sovereign authority to something outside yourself. And a mind without a ruler is a city without walls. Each evening, conduct what the Stoics called vespertina contemplatio, evening reflection. Ask 3 questions. What was in my control today? What was not? What judgments did I make that were based on fear rather than reason? This is not self-punishment. This is governance. This is the daily act of returning to the throne of your own mind. When someone challenges you, when circumstances push back, when the voice of doubt rises, pause and ask, is this within my ruling faculty? If yes, act. If no, release it entirely, with the full authority of someone who knows what belongs to them and what does not. A man who knows what is his, truly, deeply, unshakably his, cannot be made to doubt himself by anything the world throws at him. He has already drawn the line. He stands sovereign behind it. Become the ruler of your own mind. Let nothing govern you from the outside. This is the final law, and with it, you are unbreakable. 7 laws, 7 weapons. Let's forge them into a single blade. The law of the inner citadel. Build your sense of self from the inside, and no external force can demolish it. The law of amor fati. Love what happens to you, because the fire is what makes you steel. The law of the present moment. Confine yourself to now, and you starve doubt of the distance it needs to survive. The law of voluntary hardship. Choose discomfort deliberately and accumulate the proof that you are not fragile. The law of perception. You have the power to revoke any estimate at any moment. The law of memento mori. Remember your death and watch every trivial fear dissolve against that absolute truth. The law of the ruling faculty. Govern your own mind with sovereign authority, and nothing outside you can take that power away. These aren't ideas, they aren't inspiration. They are a system, a complete, battle-tested operating system for the human mind, forged over centuries by men who faced real stakes: exile, war, slavery, assassination, death. These men didn't whisper affirmations, they built fortresses. And now, so can you. You already have everything you need to be mentally unbreakable. The doubt told you otherwise. The doubt lied, because self-doubt is not evidence of your weakness. It is evidence that you haven't yet committed to the laws that govern a strong mind. Today, that changes. Start with one law, just one. Pick the one that hit you hardest in this video and apply it tomorrow morning, deliberately, specifically, with the full weight of your intention. One law, applied daily, is more transformative than 7 laws admired passively. The Stoics didn't promise an easy life. They promised something far more valuable, a life lived on your terms, governed by your judgment, immune to the endless noise of an uncertain world. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while fighting self-doubt in private journals. Epictetus achieved total psychological freedom while legally enslaved. Seneca faced death with calm, steady eyes. What is your doubt compared to that? Tap like if this video reached something real in you today. The algorithm responds to your engagement, and so do I. Drop your affirmation in the comments. Which of the 7 laws hit you hardest? Write it out, name it, claim it. That act of declaration is itself the first application of the law of the ruling faculty. Subscribe, because every single week we go deeper into Stoic truth, not the watered-down version, not the social media quotes, the raw, unfiltered philosophy of men who were forged in fire and came out iron. The doubt will return tomorrow. It always does. But so will you, armed, deliberate, and sovereign. Become the master of your mind. Rebuild, refocus, rise.